Hey everybody, welcome back to IT Horror Stories with Jack Smith. And today, as usual, we have a friend, and this time Joe is back. Hey Joe.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite amazing as always because I'm so happy that you are here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for joining again. Joe, reach out to me and say like, hey, you wanted to discuss something that everybody in our audience dislikes. And it's really cool because it unites the Windows folks, it unites the Unix folks, it unites the security guys, the Linux nerds, the guys from the hacker spaces, the demo sceners. Everybody dislikes SAP.
Indeed.
And that happens to be your corner today.
Well, I was thinking when you asked me to do this podcast, I was thinking to myself, how can I explain this best? I think it's like Star Trek against Star Trek against Star Wars.
Sure, but Red Dwarf is better.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so for those not in the know, an elevator pitch of SAP, please.
So basically, and then maybe this unites everybody, it started initially in 1971. Five people of IBM said to themselves, well, all the software they're doing now is custom made. So we're looking for a based standard solution. So they left IBM and they started their own company called SAP. And now I'm going to speak some German, which means Softwareanalyse und Entwicklung. And I know you know a little bit of German, so it explains a little bit that us IBM boys, they have a specific way of thinking. And I think we all have a specific background. And I said, let's start something that's not done until now. And if you look at their turnover on a yearly basis now in 2025, you see that they did a very good job.
Well, yeah, that's because they are very expensive and you still don't know what the hell they're doing.
That's because they're very smart. They always give you the complete menu and say, you need this. And everybody doesn't want to challenge them and they say, okay, where do I need to sign?
Them coming from IBM, it makes sense because the oldest joke in the sector is that warm feeling on your butt cheek. That's IBM's hand on your wallet. So then if you want then the dual butt cheek heating, you put SAP on your IBM system.
Yeah. Well, I must say, a lot of people I've talked to, they all say, you need to take SAP because this is the market and everybody uses it. But if you look at the real market, you have the big multinationals. Yes, they will take SAP. Why? Mm-hmm. It's like, my car is bigger than yours.
Yeah.
Or I drive a Rolls Royce and you drive, how do you say it in French? A deux chevaux.
Yeah.
A very small car. And it's like, I don't want to be left out. I want to be one of the big boys.
You want to be one of the guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because if you look at the thing, like a small mom and pop shop, they will run their accounting and stuff in an Excel sheet. A small business can use some online cloud platform these days, and then your medium enterprise, they will end up with Dynamics, Navision, or whatever the hell Microsoft calls it today. And then you end up in the SAP world.
Well, I must say, most of the small companies that I know, let's take about 300 to 500 people. Okay, that's not that small, but
that is not a small company in the place of the globe that we live in.
Completely agree. but well, if you look at the market for the moment, the biggest users are utilities companies, and they have an industry-specific solution that ensures that they can do their work correctly, their accounting. But there is also an interface, an exchange in SAP that's specific to it, and they use that also mostly in big companies. Now, seeing e-invoicing is coming up, I think a lot of small companies or smaller companies will move from Microsoft Dynamics to SAP because it just gives them more possibilities to do better accounting, and there is also AI involved at the moment.
No. We don't mention that curse word here yet.
No AI then.
No, we're not going there. Yeah. So in general, as you say, you have to get into e-invoicing, you have to go the flow, and then looking at the complexity of all that stuff, migrating over or doing your lifecycle management, doing all your upgrades and your updates, that there has to be something that is pretty unique that you can only see in the SAP world.
Well, if I would like do an elevator pitch and sell SAP to you, which will not
You
happen.
don't have to, but
I think what makes it an incredible product is the possibilities that you have. Not looking at the old system, because this one will be decommissioned in 2028. That's why there is a big migration fever going on at the moment. Everybody's working in the old system and are steadily migrating to the S4HANA platform, which is the hybrid, but also completely in the cloud solution of SAP. Now,
So you mean that I no longer have to dedicate 7 racks of my data room onto this SAP crap that is just standing there and you're not allowed to touch, because then you will use your support contract with some German TLA spin-off from IBM? Like, why could anybody be against that?
well, let's put it this way. Your racks will disappear, but your racks will be taken into an hosting environment of SAP.
Yeah, sure, but those are not my computers.
Exactly. That's why there is. I'm a little bit. Can I say it? Scared to say this, but okay.
Go ahead.
The meaning is SAP's idea was, why do your own hosting while we can do your hosting?
So you basically go into the SAP cloud.
Yep, and we completely own you. Because
I thought they already had your data anyway in their platform, and you were paying
no.
the license for that. So
In the old system, you could do the data hosting at the SAP, but most companies did it on their own data center.
the 7 racks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's going to disappear, and you're just giving more and more power that you have in your own system to SAP, and they completely have you in a lock-in. Also, if you look at our licenses, the license system in the past was perpetual, meaning if you buy a license, it was for the complete life cycle. Now they go to a subscription model, meaning that every month you get a very nice invoice from SAP.
That's only 10 years behind Microsoft and Oracle. They're learning.
They're learning. They're not quick learners, but they're learning. If you look at S4HANA as a system, it doesn't have that AS400 vibe anymore of the old system. So it's click and drag.
Indeed, because looking at having to come in touch with some SAP things left and right at project, it feels very mainframe.
It is. The old system gives you old AS400 vibes. And also you needed to understand a lot of transaction codes. So you had to train yourself in lots of transaction codes.
What was that markup language that IBM used for its Scream? RPL?
RPG?
RPG, yeah.
RPG,
yeah. Can SAP do RPG for its screens?
Oh yeah, for sure. If you look at the old system, it's completely, you have that RPG vibe. Like, I need to enter this code, and this code gives you that screen, and in that screen you need to do that transaction code.
Yeah, and then press Control Shift F17 to continue.
And the thing, and then there was SAP very smart in. They give you a standard solution, and they say you need this. This will cover all your needs, and then, as a company, you say, but I'm missing this, I'm missing that, and my people want more drag and drop. So you start customizing.
Yeah, and that's where they have you.
And that's when you buy the cojones.
So, again, that's what Microsoft has been doing with SharePoint for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a wonderful thing, here's your base. Oh, you want something fancy? Well, there we go.
That's why now, from the old system, ECC 6.0, which is the latest version of the old system, all those systems were highly customized.
Obviously, yeah.
Oh, yeah. More than 80% was customizing. So now you have the problem that you need to migrate from an old system to a new system, which is cloud-based, more drag and drop. Everyone is saying, but my customizing, I paid like millions to do this.
Yeah. And that's now,
gone.
And there is no migration trajectory into the cloud?
No, they shout very hard now. SAP is going, stay close to the core. And they built their core so good, and the shell around the core, that you can't go into the real nitty gritty of S4HANA. Otherwise, you will lose your license. Okay,
so you're basically, I'm imagining that you can hire SAP to redo your customizing.
Yeah. Of course. You can also hire big consulting firms to do some customizing for you. You can do some customizing, but not to the core of the application.
Yeah, because basically, I don't think they will sell it as you, but you're using a shared platform.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen some things come on the market and said, yeah, we're doing, and here comes the curse word, they're going to use AI to translate code from platform A to platform B, and they assumed, they being big government agency as they are, assumed, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. We need a core team of 5 guys and a project manager. Can you be the project manager? It's like, and you want to do this in 18 months? Well, sure.
No. Seeing I've done already like 6 projects of transformation from the old to the new system, doing things in 2 years is even a dream.
Yeah. So of those 6 projects, if you had to pick one, let's say like this was maybe not the worst, not the best, but the craziest, where would we be?
The most insane one is a company that I'm not going to mention. That was the most crazy project that they did. Is they said, I'm going to migrate all my existing ERP systems, which was Microsoft Dynamics also, Infor and a lot of ERP systems, to S4HANA. What do you think? The board was like, oh, fantastic idea. We're going
one single platform by Grabtar's hammer. Imagine the cost savings. This is so awesome.
It's like the Lord of the Rings. One ERP to rule them all.
Yeah. And then Joe comes in on his white horse and says, "None shall pass."
Indeed. Well, it was the most insane things was a large company in St. Louis. Where we needed to do a migration. And I still remember the first day coming into the office, it was like, hey, Joe, you're here, fantastic. Everybody is waiting for this magnificent project. Now, all respect for American people, but I'm coming from, oh guys, I'm not the messiah. We're going to try to work together to get this thing done. And they said, especially for you, we have our AS400 person that we called, and he will be here in the afternoon. And I was like, okay.
You got Mr. AS400 himself to come down for an SAP project.
For sure.
That's.
And they said this is going to be a little bit hard to migrate, but we guess you will solve this issue.
Oh well, you're the Joe that's like like an afternoon and it's done.
Well, it's a walk in the park, eh?
Yeah.
So in the afternoon, I saw the person who was the admin of AS400. The guy said, "Oh, very happy to see you. I wasn't here because I was in fact doing things at a retirement home." I was like, "Okay, yeah, but you know, I'm 71 years old and I've written all the 20,000 lines of code." And I was like,
the plot thickens.
I was like, "Okay, this is very interesting." Yeah, but migrating everything is going to be a little bit hard because I've heard that S4HANA is in the cloud. I said, yes, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge because you're a technical guy like me. We need to migrate this all in flat files. So this will take an enormous amount of time. So I was a little bit scared just beginning on this because there was like metaphorically a big sticker around the AS400. Please don't touch.
Yeah, touch and die. Okay, so basically you come in, they said, oh, it's going to be easy. You see there's a big AS400. It's using then AS400, so probably a DB2 database, which is indeed a flat file with an index.
Yeah, correct.
Sorry, IBM, we know. If send your hate mail to hello@ithorrorstories.eu. You're welcome. So listening to that is just like, oh, we're just gonna switch over. Like there was no due diligence on amount of data, amount of tables, amounts of records. It's like, oh, it's whatever our 71-year-old admin says it's there.
Well, what you mostly do if you have an old system is we do a due diligence on the software.
Yeah.
Like we let a scanning system run, an agent.
Yeah.
And then that agent picks up all they call it Z transactions. Z transactions are all custom-made transactions.
Okay, yeah. So everything that's customly added is picked up. Okay.
Exactly. But there is a big but. All the systems that are around your universe of SAP, they're not locked. So you need to have an enterprise architect with you to define all systems that are connected to the existing ECC, to the existing SAP system.
Okay, so basically it publishes out an API, but you have no idea who connects to it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's very secure.
I know. Welcome to SAP.
I'm having AS400 flashback in the logistics sector where the guy from customs wrote an application. Here's a runtime, install this on your Citrix server. I have made a thing for customs, and it just dials into the AS400 with my personal account. Sure.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, some systems are connected to SAP with spit and sweat.
Spit and sweat, is that above or below duct tape and bubblegum?
Even below that. Even below that. Yeah. And there's a big sticker again. Please don't touch, because it works now.
Uh-huh.
But I must say the migration I did there was it was a hefty one. I think we were a team of 60 people.
60, not
60.
Yeah, not 16, 60. Okay.
And this project, and I'm going to blow you at your seat. This project was in fact foreseen for 150 million euros.
I can imagine in the SAP world that's average.
So now, still it's a big one.
That's a big one. Okay.
An average is like 30 million.
Oh, okay, sure. Let me check my wallet if I can do that. Yeah, fine. So our 71-year-old admin comes in.
Yeah.
He gives you the access. You find all the flat files. So where does one start? Like you can't just copy paste the files over. You have to realign database fields. You have to look where your indexes are, where your queries are, where your filters are.
That's the thing we call in SAP a sidecar approach. You know, a sidecar, the motorcycle with a sidecar.
With the dog in it. Yeah.
In fact, what you do is you have your existing ECC 6.0 system that's connected with all different systems at the side.
Yep.
Through APIs or through EDI connectivity. And then, in fact, in the other sidecar, you have your existing in-cloud S4HANA environment. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is an empty shell.
Yeah.
But depending if they have standard solutions, they also have it's called a model company. So they have a model company and you can just plug and play and then you need to migrate the data. But this one was so complex that we started from a greenfield.
Okay.
A completely virgin system.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you do an index of the existing master data. You check which tables exist or are being redundant. And then you migrate bit by bit. And then the interesting thing is, after migration or even within migration, you do customizing to make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking because during your migration, which takes its number of months, your current system is not stopped.
No.
And you are still continuing customization on that, so you're playing eternal catch-up.
Yeah, true. But the way is you do your migration module by module and you decommission them. Let's say one module is finance and controlling, accounting.
Let's not use long, difficult words here. Accounting is fine.
Accounting then?
Yeah, accounting.
If you look at accounting has a specific module within SAP.
Yeah.
What you will do is migrate accounting to the S4HANA environment and then you decommission it. Yeah. And then you go to the next module.
And then folks will have to use two clients or are they integrated into the same client?
It's two clients.
Yeah.
Because it's a separate environment.
Yeah, twice the Citrix servers.
There you go. Why go cheap?
I love job security for system engineers. We're doing an SAP system. What do we need? How many Citrix servers do we have? 500. No, we have 1,000 now. 1,000.
Well, if you look at the idea behind SAP, and that's out of my 25 years of experience, for every euro or dollar that you spend, you need to pump in $2 more to get it running and keep it running.
Yeah. Now, what you said with the data migration, it's the same everywhere. It's just a different scale. Same logistics company with the mainframe with over of an office somewhere out in the fields, and they were basically doing their logistical planning in a bunch of Access 95 databases, which was kind of out of support. And we had to move them to SQL Server 2000-ish, forget the exact number. And we did something similar, is that I think first they converted the database schema, And when that was in, they would do table by table, they would move it over. So not module by module, but we had a transition weekend for other stuff, like the entire application platform moved over. And that's when we had like 2 or 3 guys just doing a bunch of Access 95 database files on their file server. And that was customized to that.
Let me scare you a little bit more. You know Lotus 123?
Yes, I even know Lotus Notes.
Me too. Which was a database on itself.
Let's do a separate podcast on Lotus Notes once, because it's actually worth it. But yes, Lotus 123.
So if we go to Lotus 123, some accounting, for example, that company had barrels. You know,
Yeah.
you use your barrels, and then when they're empty, they come back to your warehouse.
Yeah.
The scorekeeping of those barrels was done in Lotus 123.
Okay.
So the most of the team saw this. It was like, we got the biggest fright of our life. It's like, are all the systems going to be out of date here? And that
Yes.
really scared us.
Yes.
And it was the case.
Yeah. Well, it's the folks think today that technical debt is something new. When you walk into a place today and we have systems which have been running since 2015 and it's all okay, but we need to move to something new now. When we did those things in the early 2000s, you would indeed find the Lotus 123 and the Windows 3.1 weather system hidden behind there. Oh yeah, no, it's always worked, and it's in the back of the warehouse, so that guy is still using the old DOS PC because nobody upgrades the PC in the back of the warehouse. And then you end up with I'm actually quietly surprised that they're not using Multiplan on a Commodore 64.
No.
That would have been an achievement. But yeah, no, coming into early 2000s, finding Lotus 123 on a DOS machine or a Windows 95 is completely possible.
Well, it's a small security hazard.
Well, those things were usually air-gapped.
Yeah, true.
And you would have sneakernet to transfer the floppies with the data over.
We choose not to have any subscription model nor sponsoring in order to keep our stories accessible for each and everyone. To support us, please check our merchandise at shop.ithorrorstories.eu or buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/ithorrorstories.
We now return to our episode of today.
I know it sounds insane, but the good thing is about the new SAP system S/4HANA that we're talking about.
I think it sounds good when you're SAP and you're sending out the invoices.
Yeah. Not only that, they have some interesting features, because once I did a project for a shipbuilding company.
Yeah.
They built big oil rigs.
Yep.
And when I was working for a Big Five company, we were asked for them to do a study of their existing environment.
Okay.
They wanted to move from their in-house build system, AS400 RPG.
Of course.
And they said to us, well, this always worked for more than 20 years, but it's maybe time for something different.
Yep.
Okay, so they hired us to do a study, to do a pre-study to see how they could move to S4HANA. So we did this, and one of the beautiful things that SAP has, and maybe it sounds strange to you, do you know a digital twin?
It sounds like a mirror backup.
It's something different. For example, if you go to a big oil rig, the idea is, and this product is in SAP, I never saw it work, I'm going to be honest. You walk with a Google Glass on the ship, and if there is an engine broken, you can look at the engine and it will explode in parts.
Okay.
On your glasses.
All right. Yeah. So you have like a technical database that you have. Okay. Yeah. I see where that could be useful.
And you can, for example, if there is something broken in it, you pinpoint the piece that is broken,
and it will get.
And immediately it will make a purchase order for that piece, and you can then have it in a few weeks.
Okay.
That's the most insane thing and crazy thing I saw from SAP, and I think it's usable. It gives you the opportunity to digitize, in fact, the ship that you're on.
Yeah, sure, but that's your stock management, and that is database-wise a difficult thing to do. Is that you have a motor, and then you have to go top down in a pyramid shape for each and every part, which nuts and bolt goes where, and those databases are ridiculously difficult.
Exactly.
Because they're not really transactional.
Yeah.
So, and then of course today they would replace the human with the Google glasses with a robot dog.
Yeah, why not?
I've seen those tests happen where it's in production in a few plants that I walked through, not with the dog, but the night shift that would check all the machines had been replaced by a dog. If human eyeballs can look at a pressure meter, then so can the dog.
Yeah.
And that was then being done, and if something was broken, it would say, okay, this pressure is too high, it goes to 2 to do the thing, and there's, okay, this compressor number 7 on floor 5. Then you can send out the guy with the Google Glass.
Exactly.
To do that.
Well, I would say from a maintenance standpoint, it can even say, are these pieces in stock on the ship? So you can
Oh yeah,
fix
because you're doing your local stock management.
Exactly.
And then because, well, in those remote sites, and I'm gonna compare it to a mining pit, which is as remote as an oil rig. Yeah, you do have some local spare parts, and then of course the big compressor has to be flown in.
I know. They have also a solution for building management, where they use they take a drone, they let the drone fly, and the drone will scan the building, and based on that, it will make a part structure also.
Yeah,
this is window type that, window door type this, and I must say, if you look at that, so the shipbuilding company that we worked, we presented this. This was it blow even my mind.
Yeah, we can do this today.
Yeah, this was pure insanity. But if you ask to SAP, hey guys, do you already have a company doing this? That's another story, because it's an incredible investment. It's very expensive.
Yes, so it all exists on paper.
Well, it exists, it works, but it's just the step to really buy it and integrate it.
So they have a few proof of concepts.
Yeah.
And then there is, if you ask him who does it in the field that we know of.
Work in progress.
Well, no, it's that we know of. I'm pretty sure that outside of the SAP world, further east, there are already companies doing this because they're good in AI and drones and recognition of parts.
Yeah.
But that is tech that is not really active here in our part of the world because we are still pretty conservative in doing that. And we haven't seen it, and then we also don't tend to trust some software coming from that far east.
Well, I must say, a lot of companies, and this is my secret about SAP, a lot of companies, they buy SAP, they integrate SAP, but they drive a Ferrari, but they use it like a Beetle. Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah, but you start with the base. You move your accounting over. You move your stock management over. You can put some sales in there. Sales lead is probably and I see most of them stopping there because that's already big enough when you have those 2 or 3 things into one application.
Correct.
And then the rest just still uses Lotus 1, 2, 3 and its continued versions of it.
Well, I can say one thing. If you go back to the horror stories, for that.
Well, yes, because this is IT horror stories with Jack Smith and Joe SAP. So yes, go ahead.
No, in fact, for one of the things I noticed, and that was for the accountability department, when we rolled out the new SAP version, they still used Excel.
Of course.
And that's a truth that I will see, and that I saw in a lot of companies. They will still use it.
If not for keeping stuff, you will use it for reporting. You will take this table, you will export to Excel, and that's where you then throw in your automatic filter or your pivot table, because that is what people are used to, and that's a lot cheaper and faster than customizing an entirely new screen.
Exactly.
If you're, sorry to jump in, and if you have the people and the budget, you can then throw that into any reporting tool that might be available.
Correct.
But that then, of course, basically says duplicating your data, and then, well, you're filling up racks again.
Even to be worse. Even to be worse, you've bought that Ferrari.
Yeah.
And you have like the analytical suite. So the analytical suite of SAP is called BI. Business intelligence.
As in Power BI for Microsoft, it's BI. That's your reporting tool.
Well, a lot of companies say, well, BI, we don't need this because we're going to use Power BI to make our reports.
Because you're using the 365 and it's kind of included.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, SAP has a complete cloud connector platform. So there is an open API that you can connect easily to S4HANA. And I completely understand people using Power BI. Even myself, I use Power BI for reporting. It's nice, it's sleek.
Yeah.
It's not top notch, but okay.
It's adequate.
Yeah.
And?
And there is no end. I must say, if you look 10 years back, SAP was not open platform.
It's the classic view of SAP is it is this behemoth that has all your financial data in it. It's your accounting platform. Nobody knew it does stock management and vendor management and everything.
Exactly.
People know. It's your big accounting platform. It's this magical client that you put on your published desktop or you put into your package and you distribute. And that's it. It has its own support teams. It has its own database people. It has its own developers. Right. And they all sit together on that magical 17th floor of the building where nobody else comes because that's the SAP floor. And you have no idea what's going on there. It is a very closed box that you hardly come in touch with. If you're doing warehouse stuff, they give you a scanner. You have no idea that it's going into SAP, like, okay, here's the box and scan it.
Correct. Well, if I look back at my career, when I started in 98, SAP was still a black box. I remember people talking about, wow, SAP, what is it? It's incredible. And all those people are making a lot of money in SAP. And I was like, whoa, this tingles my spider sense. I want to know a little bit more about that because basically, it was a black box.
History question. It originally ran on mainframe, or was it always
it ran on mainframe, yeah, correct.
Yeah, because it came from IBM,
exactly.
So they went with that. So it was a mainframe application, and then later it went to other databases and stuff. So how client-server is it today, or does the client just pump into the database?
It pumps it straight into the database.
So there is no middleware, there is no server component.
It's embedded. Yeah. Even then, they have a big suite of analytics, like I explained to you, BI.
Yeah.
It's completely embedded also.
Yes, but that's it. There is no middleware. There is no backend server.
Yep.
All the intelligence and all the power is in the client.
Yeah, exactly.
That is very 1980s.
I know, but it keeps the power within.
It is, okay, but other systems would have a middleware component in there to when your queries and your BI is then already uploaded.
Yeah,
and it will just plug into the database and just keep looking. But you're putting a lot of stress and responsibility on your database platform, and then of course you end up with the IBM mainframe data pumps, what they are.
Yeah.
Because you can cheat and you can do your nightly batch processing.
Well, still, after 25 years working with it, I'm still amazed by the things it can do.
Yeah, but then in your 25 years, because this is like a bit of, the cloud story is that all over again, is that everybody knows how to get to the cloud, nobody knows how to get out of it. So who goes away from SAP? Did anybody think about this, and did anybody succeed? Because once you're in there, are you stuck, or can you get out, or do you have to start over greenfield?
There are some smaller companies, I will call it that, smaller companies that initially had SAP, but just based off cost they went to Microsoft Dynamics. There are some. Mm-hmm. How much? I have no idea. But if you're a large multinational, it's practically zero. The chance is zero.
That's indeed the market that I see there, and I have heard of nobody that said we know SAP is costing too much money, but we are stuck with it.
Mm. Well, there are some building companies that I knew that tried SAP and went very quickly away from it because they don't have a solution for construction companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some niche platforms which are better built on top of Dynamics NAV. Having seen some in the field, also for smaller logistics companies, there are some suites which are completely built on Dynamics NAV.
Yeah.
They're an add-on, and they think truck trailer and maintenance windows for the truck. So I can perfectly see that something exists the same for brick and mortar and window ordering and roof ordering. tell me if I'm wrong, but like SAP is a statistical database. It's still accounting and stock management.
Exactly.
But running an actual business process in it, building a house or moving a truck, is not its strong. You can do it, but I don't think it's its strongest point.
It's not tailor-made, I would say, to that solution. If you want to make it tailor-made, it will cost you a lot of money. But you're completely right in that.
I'm always right. That's my biggest gift.
This podcast features Jack Smith and guests. We say thank you to our demo scene friends who helped making this podcast possible. Commander Homer for editing, Danko for music and audio advice, NetPoet for additional voiceovers.
Well, like you explained for Microsoft Dynamics, there are some consulting companies that have a shell for construction.
Exactly.
Top, you said.
Yeah, and then they will apply their custom pack on it.
Yep.
And you start from a baseline, and then of course those consulting companies will charge you extra for customizing whatever you need.
They will charge you the license of using their software, and they will charge, of course, also implementation costs for the bodies that you need to integrate it.
Yeah. So rounding up a bit, I have a technical thing on the database queries. So are they cached? Are they pre-calculated? Or are you asking every query every same time? Is anything indexed?
Yeah, there is an index. Of course, you have your own analytical body within SAP, and it's constantly indexed and also calculated. Because one of the things, and I'm sorry, going to talk about finance a little bit, is precognition, meaning that if you have like a balance scorecard about the incomes and outcomes and the existing contracts that you have ongoing, it will predict also how your business will be in 1 year or 6 months.
Yeah.
So it means it's continuously being recalculated and indexed.
Yeah. Okay. Because what I mean is I've seen it in Dynamics Nav World on those packages for logistics companies, is that they would have performance issues. And then we would come in, do a check on the database, and then we would find out that their most used queries aren't indexed.
Yeah,
they would have to rerun, and then we're like, well, these companies that are making these add-ons are providing us our work, because if their DBAs would put their queries as indexed, we would have no work. And we did that for years. It's like, oh, you're having a noting. Oh, it is going slow. Well, here's our analytics toolkit, and we sell you some consultancy, upgrading your queries. You're like, oh, you're using Logistics Force 7.5. We knew upfront which queries were not indexed.
Yeah.
And we happily sent out the invoices.
Yeah, I completely agree. The thing is, I would say, people thinking about moving to the new SAP platform, do a good due diligence, like you said at the beginning, because you can save a lot of money.
And also look for your customizations.
Yeah.
Because if that's a thing... So, less devil's advocate thing, I swear. If the current version of SAP, I'll just call it the on-prem version, when that goes out of support, and you're not in the new cloud version because you cannot afford it, or reasons, might there be another platform, a Dynamics or a cloud-based thing otherwise that could step in and say, hey, give us your SAP database, we will run stuff on it, and then it moves over into whatever?
Well, there are still the Oracles of this world. Oracle has his own ERP system. You have Microsoft Dynamics.
We were so close not mentioning Oracle this entire episode.
I know, but you triggered me.
Sorry.
No, but you have different solutions, but you need to act fast, because a typical transformation takes about more than 2 years.
At least.
Yeah.
And current support is until
2028.
End or beginning?
Yeah, beginning.
So end of 27.
Yeah.
So it basically means you have to start your project today.
More than start, you should be already a quarter done.
You should be. It should be running. You should be doing your due diligence now.
Exactly.
Okay, and then you have your design, you have your transformation, and then you have your hypercare, and then hope that you're done by end of 27.
And if you have a lot of money, you can also ask a max attention license. Max attention means that SAP will do everything for you, even send people to be onshore at your site to help with any...
The white glove approach.
Oh, yeah.
That's just sounds expensive.
It is very...
I am imagining that SAP will charge you a few 10,000 just to make the quote.
You're not far from the truth.
Just, doing my business planning 3 to 6 months ahead, I can see that coming.
Yeah, it's... I must say it's an amazing system, but it's not that cheap.
I think it's okay to actually pay money for good stuff. So if it does what it does, and certainly if you're a large organization, if it is, doing that versus a bunch of Excel files, or ending up in a thing where any small business cloud platform just cannot do it, then you have to end up somewhere, and then either in Dynamics or Oracle. I don't even know the name of the Oracle ERP. I'm sorry.
Isn't it Business One? Business One, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, or write us an email, hello@horrorstories.eu, what you think of the Oracle ERP and what the name is, because Oracle is out of both our comfort zone. The furthest I ever went into Oracle was like installing the client, and that was nightmarish enough with all the components that it does. So, okay. Good. No, I think we're going to round off here. Joe, thank you so much for bringing your vision on the world of SAP, ERP, and the financial things that everybody loves to hate.
It's my pleasure.
Stop hurting yourself. All of you guys, thank you for tuning in. You can follow us on your favorite podcast platform, so the Spotify, YouTube's, Apple's, Deezer's, and whatnot. Our website is ithorrorstories.eu. You can reach out to us via email, hello@ithorrorstories.eu, or on our social media. All the links are on the website. Thanks for tuning in. And Joe, thanks again for dropping by. And see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
The content of this podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only and is meant to humorously explore various tech-related situations. Any resemblance to actual events or real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. We ridicule situations, never individuals or groups. Listener discretion is advised, and we encourage everyone to approach technology with a sense of humor and an open mind.